Nasadiya Sukta, second part. Pranam mantra. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. In the previous talk, we presented before you a very clear picture of the idea about time, space, causation, mind, etc., as perceived by the Western world, the sciences, and how our sages perceived it, and consequently how India perceives it. That particular description, that means the first part of our talk, is actually very important for understanding what we are going to discuss now. So the first mantra which we had mentioned in the previous talk was Nasadasit tadanim nasid rajo no vyoma paro yat kimavari vaha kuha kwasya sharman amba kimasit tad gahanam gabiram. And English translation is pretty simple, although the meaning is pretty deep. Existence was not then, nor non-existence. That means neither there was existence nor there was non-existence. The world was not the world as we understand, the physical world, nor the sky beyond, the sky that we see. What covered it? That means when the creation took place, what was there? What covered it? Where was it? And for whose protection? Whenever there is an object, whenever there is a thing, it is meant for the use by someone. So the term used here is protection. Was water there? Unfathomable depth of water, the water from which the entire creation comes out. Now, before we get into the discussion, what exactly this mantra means to say and what are the special features of this mantra, have a thought experiment, something favorite with the scientists, a thought experiment. Imagine you are meditating and meditating deep, very deep. Nowadays, there are some popular meditations based on Buddhistic traditions. They say, medley of too many things. That's not how meditation is done. And that's why people do these things, feel relaxed, and yet do not derive any spiritual benefit. Anyway, in our Indian tradition, in Hindu tradition, you have to meditate on some object. Generally, it can be some sacred symbol, some sacred sound like Om, or your Ishta. Your Ishta is mentioned to you by your Guru, or you choose by yourself, or through family traditions. Now you are meditating deep. The idea is the thoughts that you have in the mind to subside them. Subside them in such a way that the thing on which you are meditating, only that may remain. You know, long ago, many years ago, I remember, I was at Advaita Ashram, Kolkata, a center that brings out maximum number of English books. And we used to take part in book fairs. I was a young monk in those days, and I was there looking after the counter. Other monks were also there. And one gentleman came and said that I want a book. I want a book on meditation. And I want to learn the art of putting my mind whenever I want wherever I want in an instant. And from that point, take my mind away whenever I want and wherever I want to put. And I laughed and laughed and laughed. I said, look, that is something we would also like to learn. We'd also like to learn the art of meditating like that. And the moment you think of something, you can focus your mind on that. And when you want, you take your mind away from that. Maybe kids can do that as far as toys are concerned, not in other things. Oh, he didn't get the joke. But that exactly is the problem with us. We think that meditation is an easy thing. And if you go and sit somewhere, sit squat legged, and try to focus on your breath between your eyebrows or wherever these teachers tell you, in no time you will be able to concentrate on the object that you want to. So you want to study something, your mind goes there. You want to apply your mind to something else, and your mind goes there. No, dear listeners, it doesn't work that way. At least not that easily. It takes an extreme long time and a straight fast practice. You keep on slogging and slogging and slogging, and then you realize that your mind has only waves and waves and waves. That is thoughts. Those of you who are more interested in the subject can listen to our Yajuḥ talks. They are there both in English and Bengali. But you were objecting on an object, and it was through it was with the help of that object that slowly you start succeeding in calming your mind. That means reducing the number of waves. So, in our thought experiment, let's assume that you are successful, although in real life you may not be. As you progress, that means as you are able to hold your mind on the object of meditation for maybe 3 seconds, and then maybe for 30 seconds, and then maybe for 3 minutes, which is a very good length of time, you feel that your mind has become calm. And that's how the power comes. And a time may come when your mind is totally fixed with the object, unwavering. In our thought experiment, let us assume that it happens with you. So, what will happen then? You will remain conscious of only one wave, that is, the object on which you were meditating. Now, for example, those of you who have studied the biography of Sri Ramakrishna, you know that he used to pray to Mother Kali, and his mind was filled with the thoughts of Mother Kali, and it was so full that ultimately something happened. And the most important thing in that happening is ultimately only Mother Kali remained. Figuratively, poetically, it is said, Mother Kali appeared before him, the way Mother Kali is, or the way Sri Ramakrishna had thought Mother Kali to be. It's a very, very, very interesting experience that Sri Ramakrishna had. In fact, all the great prophets have visions like this. So, what will be the reality now? And supposing you come down from that level, when your mind was on one object, of course, at that level, you cannot, for example, you start meditating on this pen. It will not take you far, because once you start meditating on this pen, your mind will become so focused that you will realize that this pen is composed of five different qualities. And then your mind will start focusing on contemplating upon those five qualities. And from there, it will go further. Ultimately, it will be mind on which it will be contemplating. And then the mother of mind, which is known as Mother Nature, Prakriti. And then you will realize that the entire creation has flown from Prakriti. Prakriti. And just like that, Sri Ramakrishna also realized that the entire universe has flown out from Mother Kali because that's the only thing that remains. Think of different religions. I cannot name them. When they claim that their so and so God created the universe, what they mean to say that the prophet of their religion had reached that level where there was one and only one object left, and they realized that whatever is there in the universe has come from that. Why? Because once once your mind reaches that level of concentration where only one object remains, and after that, once again, ripples in your mind. They're not powerful thoughts, they're just ripples. They start arising. You realize how those ripples are related to that object. Obviously, such a simple thing. It's wonderful. And now, in another thought experiment, imagine that you can get rid of that object, that last object. Actually, it's a near impossibility. Religions may talk about God being formless, but getting rid of that last object is near impossibility, as has been beautifully described in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, who, when he was instructed in Advaita sadhana, whenever he focused his mind on the teachings of Advaita, non dual, Mother Kali appeared, the last object. That means you can get rid of the ripples and waves of your mind, but the object on which was the center of your concentration, the object that helped you reach that level, it's impossible to get rid of that. Those of you might have read my book Tia. In Tia, there's one last scene where Hans, which has been guiding Tia through things, is it refuses to go. And Tia says, "You go away." Hans says, "You created me. You have to destroy me." It's a very interesting statement, very difficult to understand as far as spirituality is concerned. Your mind is the great empire, and it's such a powerful empire. How powerful? Imagine this way. Imagine again yourself living for 1,000 years, maybe 2,000 years, maybe 10,000 years. 10,000 years is too long a period to imagine. So let's make it little shorter. That will give you more of a reality check. Think of 500 years. And just imagine things that happened in last 500 years. There was this great scientist Newton. Then there was Einstein. Then there was Shakespeare. And we had writers like Bernard Shaw and philosophers like Spinoza. Some years this side, that side, it makes no difference. And then there was Voltaire. Come to India. We had greats like Rabindranath Tagore, and we had greats like Gandhiji. And I like that. Just imagine. And there were famous painters like Van Gogh, Picasso, like that. And great filmmakers, great generals like Napoleon. Do you think that you could have attained all that given the span of time? Instead of 500 years, take 1,000 years. You may say that Probably, yes, I would have. In that case, you just have to ask someone you know well, maybe your parents, your siblings, anybody. Look at something you describe and ask the other one to describe, to write down, and you will see that there are differences. That's why you will see that songs, songs written by different people have different tones. So many people have written the story of Sri Rama and see how they differ. Why? Because the cosmic mind is so powerful, whose small parts each one of us is. I represent a very small part of that cosmic mind, and you represent a very small part of that cosmic mind. So the expression that you are giving will never tally with the expression given by the others. And the kind of training that your mind gets, mind will continue to be with that kind of training. It's very unusual. Like sometimes I hear that, oh, so and so, he's such a great mathematician, and he is also such a great musician. It's just not possible. Just not possible. When you are doing sadhana of one thing, you cannot have sadhana of two. God and mammon, you cannot serve both of them. No, no, it's not possible. You may have a talent. Allah, I knew one boy. He was at Devghar when I was principal there. And he simply was a divine singer. No training, nothing. And then I requested his parents to get him trained a bit in music. They tried everything. They got a very elderly, great singer of the town. And that singer, he said, the boy seems to have come from Gandharva Lok. Never heard such wonderful voice, such wonderful control over music. But he simply didn't learn. Today, he's a very successful doctor, very successful doctor, great doctor. And then once he sent me one of his video clips where he was singing one of the popular songs. And I asked him to stop singing. It was such a shame. Had he continued his world of music, God alone knows where he would have reached. But he took up a different profession. So the talent remained. If he had continued practicing, he would have been there for a while. Otherwise, whole thing was ruined. You cannot have two different kinds of talent, particularly moving away from one kind of thought to entirely different kind. There was one great scientist, Newman. He was into nuclear physics and he was doing the Manhattan Project responsible for the atomic bomb. And then he switched on to economics. However, the common thing between the two subjects was mathematics. When he was doing physics, it was mathematics. When he was doing economics, it was physics. So, what I mean to say that you couldn't have been. Just look around, look at people and see the variety of talents that they have, even if they belong to the same field. So you can understand what the cosmic mind must be like. Because of meditation, the thought experiment that I mentioned, you have now reached that point where you are one with the cosmic mind. You can imagine the power that you now have, and also the power that the cosmic mind has over you. Because when you have something big, when you achieve something big, you cannot let that go. It's only to India's credit that we devised a system of Chaturashram, four ashramas, where even the great kings long to give up everything and go to the forest in their old age to contemplate upon God. If there have been even a little, even a few instances where some king gave up. For example, those of you might have heard the story of Bharat, Jada Bharat. He was a king. And when he was old, he gave up his kingdom and went to the forest to contemplate upon God. But if you have acquired something, if you have lived with something for many years, so difficult to get out of it. You have acquired your oneness with the cosmic mind. A cosmic mind being so powerful thing, will it let you go? No, it won't. There's no way it can let you go. It doesn't let you go. That's what it did with Sri Ramakrishna. So when Mother Kali appeared once again during his thoughts, he kind of used his knowledge and cut her into two. And he says, then his mind raced towards the infinite, the oneness, the Advaita. What was that Advaita? Sri Ramakrishna, who has given us so much as far as spiritual knowledge about the spiritual world, but even he couldn't say anything about Advaita, the state of Advaita. There were occasions when he said, okay, today I have decided to tell you everything. Let me tell you. This is what happens. And then he goes on saying how his consciousness is rising and the kind of things he's seeing. And we are at a point, suddenly he says, I wish to tell you, but someone as if puts its hand on my mouth and doesn't let me speak. His mind used to race into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And what is that Nirvikalpa Samadhi? Where that one object which we mentioned, even that goes away. That means what we want to say that mind, which had one single wave of your east, even that is gone. Now what will remain? Is a state of no mind. Now I hear that some of these popular teachers of meditation, they have been using this idea of no meditation, no world, no something God to say. I wonder if they really understand what they are talking. I don't mean to say that I understand, but our scriptures are so clear about these things. In that state of being, in that state of non duality, where there is no two, what will you experience? What will you know? Very difficult to say what exactly you will know because there is no mind. However, if perchance, by the will of God, you return from that state, because Sri Ramakrishna says, anyone who experiences that state of bliss doesn't want to return and they don't return. Only those whom God wants to do some good work through whom only those people return. So it's persons like Sri Ramakrishna returned. Even Swami Vivekananda didn't have the experience of that. Sri Ramakrishna just gave him a taste of it and withdrew. Because otherwise, Swami Vivekananda won't do the welfare activities for this world. Such an interesting thing, this. If you are interested in spiritual matters, so fascinating. So fascinating. When I was a young boy, I used to be extremely fascinated by detective books and thrillers. But spirituality has more thrills, much more thrills. Put all your thrillers together. Any one sacred book contains more thrill than all those books put together. So thrilling. Now imagine a sage who has experienced that kind of thing with the idea of understanding the mystery of creation. He comes back from that state and wants to tell his disciples or wants to tell the world what that state is like or how the creation came. Because that state of nirvikalpa samadhi and how creation came, these are one and the same thing. Because once your mind goes into that state of being that is non dual, it's all over. And as you return from there, creation is taking place afresh. It's a new creation. So, what is happening with your mind happens exactly in the same way at the time of creation. So, what might you experience the last part of our thought experiment? Our Upanishads say that you cannot know, you just can't know what exactly that state is about. But as you return to the plane of mind, now mind cannot hold sway over you because mind was dead. You being pure consciousness and you being held captive of, you being held slave of mind. Think of this way. There is a prince, and the prince has been kidnapped. And the prince, he has been living under the captive of a demon, very powerful demon, who can keep him happy, who can even terrify him, who can do anything with that prince. And somehow, through this mean, that mean, the citadel, the fort of that demon is cracked open. The prince goes out. And the prince realizes that he is actually the prince of the entire kingdom, who had been kept captive inside the fortress by the demon. And the demon, for whom he had developed a longing, and the inhabitants, for whom he had developed a longing. Now, what will that prince do? The prince will go to his palace and be the prince, be the king. And he will lament, what a stupid person I was to be under the captive of that demon. He might think of all those inhabitants who have been left behind, and he'll say, who cares? Let them find out. Let them find a way out. In one of those famous travels of Sindbad, you might have read the travels of Sindbad. Sindbad once landed in land of the one of the witches, and she used to feed those sailors so well. But Sindbad had some kind of suspicion. He felt that she is a witch, and so he didn't eat food. And there was some kind of fencing. It was impossible to pass through those fencing. And all the sailors, they ate. They became fat. But Sindbad continued to becoming, he continued becoming leaner, leaner, leaner. And the witch should prod Sindbad. You are becoming leaner. Eat well. But no. He said, no, I am eating very well. He had understood something is wrong. And then one day, he had become so lean, that He got out of the fence. He could now slip through. And the witch changed those sailors into sheep and goat. She would then slaughter them for her own meal. So when Sindhu was out, he gave one last look. He saw his own friends and comrades. They were all kind of bleating and crying, that kind of thing. Sindbad ran for his life. Well, it's something like that. We are captives in the realm of mind. And the only way to get out of this empire is to become lean and thin, and so lean and thin that you can get out of its net. Once you get out of its net, you realize that you are the king of everything. Why should you even think of what happened in the past? You're free. You're totally free. However, there might be someone who might feel for those who are left behind. And worse, there might be somebody who kind of develops a Stockholm syndrome. Stockholm syndrome is when you start loving your kidnapper. So he may go back. But even if he goes back, now he knows how to get out. So the demon known as mind, the mind doesn't hold sway. It cannot. It's just not possible. However, if he wants to help those who are there already in that prison, he has to behave like them and guide them and goad them towards freedom. That might be difficult, but that's a different topic. The sage here, Prajapati Parameshti, he is one of those princes who escaped the captivity of mind. And he realized what reality is indeed. He realized that the world beyond is a different thing altogether. Most importantly, it is real. It is not shunya the way Buddhists say. It's not void. So can you say that it's something this? You cannot, because your mind was not there then. But as you were returning, just imagine that the prince coming back at the trap door. Once you come back to this trap door, that kind of thing, you are back into the realm of darkness. And they might ask how it was light. You will say it was light. What is light? Because they are beings of darkness. They will never understand what is darkness. We can never understand what consciousness is like. It's just not possible because we have no idea of consciousness. We have the idea of sensate beings, but we don't know what is consciousness. So, the sage describes that state of being from where creation flows out. That state of being, which you can experience when you go into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. That state of being when your mind becomes no mind. That state of being, which is also known as Advaita, non-dual. It's not monism, non-duality. Na sad asit, na asad asit, na sad asit, tadanim. It's kind of a question, tadanim. Maybe the disciple asks, how was the state and what was the state from where creation came out? Creation flowed out. And the disciple says, that was the state when there was no Sat, no Asat. Nasit Rajo, nor there was Raja. The world was not there. We will explain each term. No Vyoma Paroyat. Sky envelops the earth. Even it was not there. Now, Sat and Asat, the two terms used. Beautiful term. And the best way to explain these two terms is to explain the terms, but keep the original terms, Sat and Asat. Translated loosely, Sat means existence and Asat means non existence. But the translation is hopelessly defective. Like, whenever you study a technical subject, say even if it's physics, in physics, a technical word may mean something, and that very word in our language may mean something different. When we use the word energy in our daily life, we mean something. But when physics uses the word energy, they mean slightly different. Just like that, Sat and Asat, translated as existence, non-existence, they have different meaning, different connotations. Sat means something that truly exists. That means you can positively affirm, you can say, yes, it is there. Asat means something which you can positively affirm that it does not exist. It's a technical thing. It's a very serious philosophical question with our masters, where they say that whether or not absence, that is non existence, is an independent method of knowledge. Thing is, when I say that this pen is not a flower, when you say it's not a flower, are you just negating? You're negating the presence of flower, or you are asserting, you are affirming positively the absence of something. This is a very interesting thing because Vedanta depends a lot on this method of knowledge, which is known as abhava. Abhava means absence. Absence as a positive affirmation of the absence. They also have special meanings like Sat. Sat sometimes is used for Brahman, but generally not. Prakriti, that is nature, sum total of energy. It is sometimes referred to as Asat, sometimes as Sat. So that's why when you study scriptures, you have to take help of the commentators, because when they say Asat, they mean to say that it doesn't have an absolute existence, which Prakriti indeed doesn't have. And when it says Sat, it means it's the ultimate reality that is perceived when you are in the realm of mind. The Vedic mantra here means to say, in that state of no mind, I'm using no mind just to, because this is a very popular term these days. In that state of nirvikalpa samadhi, when the last object through which you have complete control over mind, through which you made the mind go completely silent and dead. And a dead mind is no mind. You can't even call it mind. And that's why it says beyond mind. Sri Ramakrishna says that that state of mind is one with Brahman, one with Atman. This, because the mind was not working there, you cannot say that there was something, nor you can say that there was nothing. The idea is mind itself was not there. So, most important thing is that when you look at different philosophies that include science, science will tell you that, well, the ultimate of everything is energy. And at the end of everything, there was energy. So there was something. Physics will say there was something. Although, if you keep on pushing them, they will say that no, we cannot say positively based on our equations what exactly was there before the Big Bang. Stephen Hawking, famous physicist, had very famously said, it's like asking, what is south of South Pole? What is south of South Pole? The question makes no sense. Sat here means something that can be known by your senses and mind. Asat means the absence that can be known through your senses and mind. So neither there was presence of something nor there was an absence of something. So you cannot say that consciousness was there. You cannot say that matter energy was there or energy was there or not there. You say, but Vedanta says that consciousness is the ultimate reality. Yes, it will explain further that why it is said like that. The idea is mind was not there, so you cannot say. The crudest example that we can give you are asked to check up in some room. Just go and see if your pet dog is in that room. It's dead dark. Again, it's a thought experiment. Neither you can see the dog, nor can you see the absence of the dog. And there being no light. Imagine it to be a dungeon with no possibility of any light. You return and you say that, well, I can't tell for sure whether it's there or it's not there. In this case, it's instead of talking like that, they say, well, neither existence was there nor non-existence was there. So, why it's like that? Because mind itself is one of the first to be created. Time, space, mind, causation, energy, these are all related, as we mentioned in our previous talk. And these are the first to be produced. Which comes first, which comes second is practically impossible to say, because whole thing comes out in a flash. Cosmic mind is formed. Time comes into existence. Space comes into existence because particles are now there. Energy particles are now there. Energy particles not in the sense of physics, but in the sense of Vedantic tradition, which means Prakriti is now active. Prakriti is composed of the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. When Sattva, Rajas, Tamas are in balance, it's as good as telling that Prakriti does not exist. And the moment there is a disturbance caused by the presence of consciousness, also known as Purush, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, the balance of these three gets disturbed. The moment the balance gets disturbed, mind is produced. It's the cosmic mind. So you can imagine the power of cosmic mind is practically one with Prakriti, and Prakriti is one with God. So cosmic mind is practically one with God, with the difference that cosmic mind is produced only when Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, the balance gets disturbed. Otherwise, they are all one. So, by negating the presence of Prakriti, that is, Asat was not there, it negates Sankhya philosophy and Yoga philosophy. Philosophically speaking, Sankhya stays one step below Vedanta. And yoga is product of Sankhya philosophy. So yoga is not a complete philosophy in that sense. Buddhism is based on yoga philosophy, and that's why Buddhism has lots of loopholes. So if asat was not there, the first word is na sat asit, na sat asit. Was there some kind of existence? No, it says you cannot say because mind itself was not there, as we explained. Does it mean that it was all shunya, as the Buddhists say? Actually, it's a very tricky thing. Like if you are interested in spirituality, you'll find this mantra extremely fascinating. And when you say na satasit, na satasit, it can be explained variously by different schools of philosophy. So Buddhists say, if the Buddhists say that okay, fine, that was the state of void. No, that's countered. Why it's countered? The only way to counter that is we just explained how if you are meditating and you go into that deep state, as you come out, you are left with some test, some knowledge. And what is that knowledge? That it's a positive state, it's not void. Thing is, actually, see, Lord Buddha didn't say anything like shunya or vigyan or anything like that. It was more than 50, 60 years after his parinirvana that his disciples got together and they noted down things. And it was much later that persons like Nagarjuna and all, they gave a systematic philosophy to it. And they had to make sure that whatever they are writing in Buddhistic philosophy is different from what the Veda and Vedanta say. Because otherwise, Buddhism becomes a small sect of Hindu religion, which it is. Swamiji says, a rebel child. The fundamental idea of this mantra is just to say, in that state, whether you are talking about Nirvikalpa Samadhi or you are talking about the state when creation took place, you cannot say for sure that this was there and this was not there. It will further, it will be elaborated further. Like, who can say no one was there, the gods were not there? But most importantly, the mind itself was not there. So when you actually, whenever we use expressions like knowledge, before, etc., we don't realize that we are talking about these things staying within the mind. Now, when you're staying within the mind, asking something about what lies beyond mind makes no sense because the person who will be answering that, he will also be answering staying within the mind. It's not as difficult as it may seem. Think of yourself moving in a train. The train is locked from all sides. Maybe you can see a few things just to verify that it's a train. Your movements and your everything will be completely restricted within that train. Mind is something like that. You're totally restricted. Now, if you want to get out of it, you need to make the train stop. And you get off. And the train leaves again. What happens to other passengers? They continue to be there because they are on the joyride. We are all on the joyride of this world. We love this world. We love its tears. We love its smiles. We love the words of our dear ones. Joyride. When I was young, I had to travel a lot. And during my train journeys, I used to see sometimes some of us students, we used to travel in a group, travel together. And sometimes you would sing songs that had fast music, and sometimes sad songs, sometimes group songs, sometimes individual songs. And at the end of the journey, we would say, "Oh, what a wonderful journey it was." The world is like that. We are having a great time. We are having great fun. Why complain? When we complain, we think that we want to get out of it. No, we actually don't want to get out of it. It's just that is also part of that game. Nothing more than that. The idea is that state of oneness is beyond zero and one. You cannot say it's zero, as Buddhists say. You cannot say it is one, as monotheistic religions say. My favorite example, Sri Ramakrishna had asked Narendranath, Swami Vivekananda later, imagine 10 pots of water reflecting the sun. How many suns are there? 11, 10 plus 1. And you break pots one by one. Ultimately, one is left. How many sun? Said two correctly. And said, you break the last part. How many? And Narendranath had said one. Said, no. Now there is no one to say what remains. That's why you'll find that understanding Advaita is very difficult. And that's why many of our monks and many of the present teachers, they have come up with a crude term, Neo Vedanta. Neo Vedanta is more of a psychology thing. It's more of a Buddhistic thing. Because, see, the problem with us is whenever we find that my listeners are not able to understand that, we try to simplify. When you try to simplify, you don't realize when you're oversimplifying things. And when you're oversimplifying, you don't even realize when you have moved away from the main subject. That's why Vedanta is not meant for all. No, it's not. It says, na asit raja. Raja is a common term used. Raja means anything that moves. And this world, the universe, is made of particles. So raja generally means particles. So it means to say that these worlds that we can think of, the worlds, the physical world, the subtle world, whatever world you can think of, it was not there, nothing. They are just, the sage is just trying to impress upon the mind of us listeners and his disciples that actually there was nothing. So the 14 lokas, that's pretty popular in Hindu tradition, Bhur, Bhuva, Swa, Janama, Tapa, Satya, etc. Nothing was there. Just explaining. Your father was not there, your grandfather was not there, nothing was there. So, was there space? Now, you might remember in physics, according to Newton, space is eternal. That means when creation takes place, there is space. And you fill matter into it. Einstein changed it. He says, no, matter and space, they are a continuum. If matter is there, space is there. If space is there, matter is there. You cannot say that there will be space without matter. It's not like empty box. No, even great scientists have their limitations. Scientists, they're not all-knowing people. So no, there was no sky, no covering, nothing. Why? Because there was no matter. Because there was no matter, there was no space. So this Nasadiya Sukta is nearer to Einstein's theory of time and space than Newtonian. This is a very interesting statement. I mean, you people should note that. In fact, I wonder at times that when Swami Vivekananda was trying to explain this hymn, this sukta, In fact, he translated it. How difficult would have been to explain this to the Westerners who were under the sway of Newtonian physics at that time, for whom space was permanent. Once the creation takes place, space was permanent. There was no space. In fact, Einstein has made things much simpler for us, the Vedantins. And quantum physics has indeed made Vedanta much easier to understand. So, Kim Avari, Kam Avari Vaha. What covered it? Nothing. There's nothing. There's no covering. Kasya Sharman. For whose benefit? No one. Because there is no one. For whose protection or for whose enjoyment? For no one. Whenever there is something, it's meant for the enjoyment of someone. And so if you say that ultimately there was the great waters from which creation comes out, no, even that was not there. Bottom line is, what was there before creation, you cannot say. And you cannot say for sure that nothing existed. So there was neither existence nor non-existence. And everything related with existence and everything related with non-existence, they were absent. We'll continue with the explanation of the second mantra. We hope to finish it in the next talk. Thank you so much.